Sometimes when I know someone's coming, I tend to get people popping in and waking me up. I'll tell you what I was getting this morning, and sometimes it's a bit cryptic, but what I was hearing was, you know that song...
That's the voice of Louise Eaton, who calls herself the blonde, blind psychic. She's sitting here now, big smile on her face. Louise,
Yes.
Before we start, you better explain to people what being a medium actually is, what it involves.
Being a medium is contacting relatives or friends that have passed over just to bring comfort, to prove that they're okay and that they have just moved on to a different level of consciousness and a different level of life. And when we die, obviously the body dies and goes to dust, but the spirit doesn't die, and it can come back and communicate to say, hello, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm all right, and there is life after death.
Now, you've done a reading for me.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever done an interview in such circumstances with anybody before. How did the reading go for you?
Oh, it was really good. It was obviously people that you knew and that you were connected with, relatives and friends who wanted to come through just to let you know that they're still around, that they're still part of your life, and they give evidence of survival, because I actually am an evidential medium, which means that I just have to prove to you that it's that person by letting you know certain things, you know, like whether there's any artifacts or any things that you've kept belonging to people, or to just give you certain facts and bits of information.
And I can verify that there are certain things that you told me that you can't possibly have known.
Yeah.
Which is so there we go. How did you get into this? Because it goes back to your childhood, and perhaps at this point ought to explain that we both went to the Royal School for the Blind in Liverpool.
Yes.
So it was at school, wasn't it, where you first had a sense?
It was, but it was at home as well, in my parents' house, when I used to just be aware when I was asleep of the spirit world, and I used to actually hear people talking to me and waking me up in the night, and they were saying my name, and I was really, really scared of it, because it was like they were in the same room as me, and I lived in fear of it for many years. But all it was the spirit world trying to communicate with me to just say that they're there, really. And when you're a child, you're very open to it and you don't block it, because when you get older you block it and you put barriers there, but when you're 6 or 7 you're completely open to it. And a lot of children do have clairaudience, which is clear hearing, which is why children can hear the spirit world. It sounds a bit bonkers to say that you can hear the spirit world, but you actually can, and when you get older you block that.
And when you were in the dorm at Wavertree at night, did other people were other people aware that you were having these experiences?
Some people were, but I think they were very frightened of it as well. But I remember one of the girls used to say that if I wasn't at school, or if I was ill or something, she'd feel more scared than if I was actually there. And I think maybe she knew, perhaps, or she was picking up on the fact that I was aware of a spirit, and I was actually a natural medium, because I think you do have to be born with the gift of being a natural medium. I know you can learn to develop your psychic awareness, but I think you do have to be born with the gift to actually be able to do it. So I think people were picking up on it, yeah.
So you went through school suspecting that maybe you could contact the spirit world.
So yeah.
When did you first think about becoming a medium, or train, or however you do that?
I lived in fear of it for years, to be honest, and I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew that I was having premonitions and getting certain things that I just felt I was slightly different, and I didn't really know why. And it wasn't really until my dad died, and I had a ring of my dad's that my mum gave me, and I was actually, when I wore it, I was picking up the fact that my dad had died of a heart attack, because the energy was still on the ring. I could feel it, and I thought, this is really strange, and I didn't quite know what was going on, and I just knew that I had to go and see somebody to find out what was going on. So I did see another medium, and she just said, oh, the things that you've been picking up when you were a child, you've actually got this natural ability to give messages and to be able to help people and to reach out to people. And I just felt like I'd come home. I felt like I'd been looking for something all my life, and I just found it. And I just knew from then on that I wanted to to be a medium. And yeah, you do have to train. You do have to have the gift initially, but then you do have to train to know how to present it and what to say to people and how to respond and how to interact with people. So there is a certain etiquette that you have to do. And there are development groups or development circles, they're called. And it's called a development circle because you sit in a circle. The energy goes round in a circle, so it flows round. And yeah, there are groups that you can sit in and learn, and I sat in lots and lots of different groups. I think there's always a tutor and a different teacher for the different stages of your development that you're going through, and they only last a certain amount of time, and then someone else comes along. So
it's interesting you talk about presenting information. I mean, I was quite lucky in that everything that came through was quite positive.
Yes.
But I imagine you may have had clients for whom the message was less positive. How do you deal with that? What are the ethical dilemmas?
They don't judge you up there, you know. They'll never really say anything that is really bad. But I think sometimes because the spirit world is still real people, they've still got personalities and they don't change. Sometimes you'll get somebody being really honest or like swearing a bit sometimes, or you'll get someone saying, I don't really want to speak to her, or she was miserable. And you have to edit those bits out. You can't say,
yeah, I can imagine.
She's a miserable so-and-so, I don't really want to chat to her.
I always wanted to ignore her, hated her all my life.
Yeah. Oh, I had somebody's mum once come through and she said, she wanted me dead, you know, she didn't really like me.
Oh my goodness, how do you deal with that?
You can't. Well, you just don't say it, do you?
I bet you don't. God, that'd be terrible. Imagine.
You can't say it, no.
But you've worked in quite a high-profile arena, really, haven't you? Because I think I'm right in saying you've been on television as a medium.
I have been on television, yeah.
Who have you been with? Tell us who you've worked with. Do some name dropping.
Well, I worked with Katie Price. Yeah.
Tell us about working with Katie Price. What was that like? What was the aim of that?
She was doing one of her programmes that she does, you know, the documentary reality TV programmes.
Oh, yes.
And her and her mum are very interested in having readings and going to see mediums and clairvoyants. And they were just looking for someone to use on the programme so that they could both have a reading. So they asked me if I'd do it. And when they phoned me up and they said, oh, it's the ITV. And it's the way they put it across. They said, have you heard of Katie Price? And I said, come on, are you having a laugh? Everyone's heard of Katie Price.
Except me. Are
you genuine? You have to prove to me that you're ITV, and you have to email me and prove and show me that you are before I'll actually take you seriously. Because I thought, why are they asking if I know who Katie Price is? Come on, everybody does. But they did prove they were ITV, and in the end I wasn't going to do it. And then I thought, well, why shouldn't I do it?
Am I right in saying that Katie Price's son is visually impaired?
Yes.
Yeah. Did that have any bearing on their decision to use you?
I don't know. They didn't say that it did. But I think when Katie looked me up and she realised that I was blind, because I'm totally blind for the benefit of the podcast, she I think that did sway her, yeah. And she did actually decide that she wanted to go ahead. And I have met Harvey as well.
Did your profile rise? I guess it must have done after being on telly.
I had quite a few people coming along to my demonstrations because I do demonstrate publicly, and I've just started doing bigger venues and arenas and theatre style venues. And I've got one coming up in Brighton in the end of February.
How many people attend those?
I've had about 170, my biggest audience at the moment. And I'm only just starting off doing it, so in the theatre style. Because I used to travel around the country going to spiritualist churches, and that's how people start. I just wanted a slight change in direction, so obviously you have to pay up for the hire of the hall and the venue, but then, you know, with the audiences, and you do get that back. So but it's just a different slant, really, you know, different experience.
Does being blind help you in some respects as a medium, either in the sense that people think you've got special powers, or does it enable you in some way to listen slightly more closely to what people are saying or what the spirits are saying? How does visual impairment kind of affect your work?
I think it's an advantage because I can't look round and read body language. And if someone's dad is in spirit and they've got a tattoo in their arm saying dad on it, or it's got a picture on it or something, I can't actually see that. So the fact that I get that information works to my advantage. And I can't be accused of planting people in the audience because I can't see who's there. So, it comes through genuinely. And I do believe that I have my own inner vision and that spirit are my eyes, because, when you're working with spirit, you don't need to see. You don't need your external eyes. You got your internal eyes, and they give me what I need. So whether you can see or not, it doesn't really matter when you're working with the spirit world. But I do feel that, I'm very privileged to have this gift, because I feel that they've given it to me, because I think if something's taken away, then I think sometimes you benefit in different ways, don't you?
There are some cultures in which blind people are imbued with almost a special sixth sense. Yeah. Do you ever get that feeling from the audience that they look at you and think, blimey, she's blind, she must have a sixth sense?
Yeah, they do. Particularly if you get certain information coming through, or you'll get names, or, you'll get very specific stuff, then people go, they are quite amazed by it. But then that I'm just a channel. I'm being given the information and I deliver it in a way that spirit give it to me.
When you get that information, do you get a sort of almost like a physical feeling that goes with it? Describe that.
Actually, you do. You get like a confirmation. People get confirmation in different ways, but I feel like a warmth or a like a sensation, just where my throat is, just right at the top of my chest. So I tend to feel it there to verify it, and that is because we have chakras or energy centres all over the body where the energy is received. And for me, because I do hear spirit as well sometimes, which is, I've mentioned before, is clairaudience, clear hearing. That's where the clairaudience comes in through the throat chakra. It doesn't come in through your ears. You get it through the throat. So I get a lot of confirmation there. So I just tend to know instinctively, really.
Do you ever encounter any skepticism from people?
Oh, yeah.
How do you deal with it? And hecklers in the audience as well?
Well, I haven't had hecklers yet. I was always a bit... you're always a bit wary of that, but then you just have to deal with it when it happens, don't you? And I think people have got a right to be sceptical. You've got to prove to them that it's not a myth, it is reality and it does exist.
You understand the skepticism, though, do you? Because it isn't. Yeah. I mean, I guess we live in a fairly rational, scientific world on the surface.
It's tangible, isn't it? You got to seeing is believing. So I've just, excuse the pun, but you know what I mean. Seeing is believing. I've got to prove that. It's my job to prove it. So bring on the skeptics is what I would say.
You'll take them on head on.
Yeah, exactly. I think you have to. You have to, have an open mind to. And if people are coming to you, they can't be completely sceptical, can they?
Because they wouldn't be there, would they?
They wouldn't be there. So there must be an element of, well, I'm looking for something.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Do people who come to see you have something on their mind? Do they have an issue that they want to resolve?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, quite often than not, it's a matter of closure. Quite often people, if they haven't got the chance to say goodbye to people, when they've died or when they passed, sometimes people want to know that they're okay and that they're at peace, and they want to know, can you tell me what I put in the coffin with them, or can you tell me what I did, or can you tell me, they want to know certain things. But sometimes you can't always demand things of the spirit world. They've got to actually want to tell you what's going on. You can't always ask them. They have to volunteer that information. You can't always call them to order, but people have very high expectations sometimes.
What does the future hold for you? Where are you going to take this profession forward?
I will want to do the venues in the theatres and go into that direction so that I can reach as many people as possible, really, and just spread the word, really, that it is part of life. And when I was a child, I did try and ignore it and run away from it. And I don't think, if it's there naturally, you can't really run away from it. It's part of your life.
So, Louise, there may be people listening to this who want to find out more, and I gather you've got a website and a book coming out. So tell us how people get hold of all of that.
Well, my website is www.louise-eaton.com, and that's Eaton as in E-A-T. O-N. Yeah.
And what about the book?
I do have a book which is called Blonde, Blind and Psychic, which is quite self-explanatory, really. And I'm just editing it at the moment, so it should be out
fairly soon.
Fairly soon, yeah. It's very light-hearted, but it is told from a blind person's point of view. But it is about my journey as a medium, and that spirit have given me my in a vision, and that they are my eyes.
Well, it's been lovely to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Very much.
I enjoyed my reading.
Thank you.
Gave me, as I probably said previously,
Food for thought.
lots of food for thought. And luckily we've got sandwiches on the table.
We've got butties.
We got butties, as we say up here. Here's me being posh with sandwiches. We got butties. Should we have the butties?
We have the butties, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Louise.
All right.